The movie starts with 3 astronauts named Brian, Fowler and Marcus. They are on a satellite repair mission. In the middle of the repair, suddenly something crashed into them and made them have to lose Marcus. Brian's wife is packing because they are going to move out of town. Above, there is his son, Sonny, watching a video where his father is being interviewed and thinks that the space accident could have happened because of Brian's negligence, and because of that Brian was also fired. A few years later, at the University of California, Irvine, there was a man named Casey, an ordinary man who was doing research on the moon's orbit by hijacking a campus professor's computer. In the morning, Fowler was called and asked to immediately come to the NASA office because there was important news. Fowler was told that the moon's orbit shifted and they also found something that looked like gas on the surface of the moon. Casey tried to call Fowler to tell NASA about his research but couldn't, and when he was about to throw away the newspaper, Casey saw something in the newspaper and saw that it was Astronaut Day. Then Casey came to a place where he pretended to be Brian, and Casey also explained the theory that the moon was made by someone. When Brian came, Casey asked Brian to contact NASA because he made a discovery about the moon. But Brian just thought of him as a crazy person and asked security to kick him out. When returning home, Brian was called by his ex-wife and told Brian to watch the news where there was a car being chased by the police and the person in the car was his son, Sonny. The next day, Brian went to court to attend his son's trial.
This way he took off.
All right, that's it. Bailiff.
Your Honor.
Bailiff, remove Mr. Harper.
Wait, you don't listen to him.
Fowler is at the office, watching the movement of the moon's orbit and plans to send someone to the moon to check for holes in the moon. And suddenly one of the employees there finds a news story on his cell phone. It turns out that Casey has spread his research on Twitter. Brian then asked the judge for leniency for his son to be released, but the judge refused. Brian then saw the news that NASA announced that the moon was out of orbit. Knowing the news, Brian's ex-wife and her new husband planned to move and find a safe place. Brian was at home, again saw a theory of the moon that was exactly what Casey said. Brian then rushed to find the file that Casey had given him. Brian also saw a video that Casey would have a meeting that day at a hotel. In space, the astronauts inspected the hole in the moon by dropping a robotic explorer. After arriving at the hotel, Brian then talked to Casey. Brian wondered how Casey knew about it all before NASA found out. Casey explained that he had been doing research for years. He also has a theory that the moon is an artificial object and has a core resource in it, and there is something in the moon that makes the moon go out of its orbit. At the NASA office, Fowler wondered why the robot rover that had been dropped into the hole instead of getting to the bottom had risen back up. And suddenly, meanwhile, the entire city experienced massive flooding due to changes in the moon's orbit.
Everybody upstairs. Casey, hang on!
Seeing the video footage, Fowler's boss immediately resigned, because he felt humans were not ready to fight such creatures, and appointed Fowler as the new leader, and gave an access card, where Fowler could see the secret files that had been hidden by NASA. Fowler then came to the secret place and it turned out to be NASA has been covering up the existence of the mysterious creature for years. Fowler then has a meeting with the military, looking for a solution to stop the strange creature. But because NASA has no solution, the military is forced to take over and will attack the creature with nukes. Then Fowler called the general, who was her ex-husband, asked to give Fowler permission to use one of the planes that might be used to attack the creature. The military then went to the hotel where Brian and Casey were, and took them to the NASA office. At the NASA office, they met Fowler. Fowler explained that there was a mysterious creature on the moon. This creature could detect the surrounding technology and attack it. That's why Fowler asked Brian for help, because Brian was the only pilot who could land the shuttle without power. Brian accepts, but on one condition: his son must be released from prison. When they were preparing the rocket, suddenly there was a small earthquake that made one of the engines of the rocket damaged, and they were forced to cancel their plans. Then Casey found a way to fly the rocket by utilizing the moon's gravitational force when the moon approaches the Earth. But because the entire rocket crew has been evacuated, they lack an astronaut crew. They are forced to invite Casey to become a rocket crew to accompany Brian and Fowler.
APUs active. Reactor control.
Sonny and Fowler's son and her nanny are heading to the bunker of the general, who is Fowler's ex-husband, because that is the safest place. In space, Brian and Fowler are refueling their rocket, and must leave soon because the moon is approaching. On the way, Sonny saw someone who wanted to ask for a ride, but suddenly they pulled a gun and stole their car. They found a place to evacuate, but suddenly the moon appeared and began to pull all the objects around it. In space, they managed to find a hole in the moon and tried to lure the mysterious creature out with a drone equipped with a bomb. But when it came out, the mysterious creature did not approach the lure plane but instead approached them. The creature seemed to detect the electricity that controlled the plane. At that time, Brian immediately destroyed the bomb controller remote and Casey's cell phone, and sure enough, the creature suddenly stopped and left. Then Fowler realized something, that the creature could detect electricity, and they had to quickly destroy the creature before the military attacked using nukes. Sonny finally finds where his stepfather and mother are, and there is an announcement that the Earth's atmosphere will disappear. So they rush to start looking for oxygen cylinders. Brian and his friends began to enter the moon, and after successfully entering, they saw that there was a large machine.
They're like whales, huh?
While taking the oxygen cylinders, they were suddenly intercepted again by the same people who had taken Sonny's car earlier. But fortunately, Sonny had a gun so they could leave safely. When they were about to attack the mysterious creature, suddenly their plane moved on its own as if it was controlled and headed somewhere. While on the phone with the general, the thieves suddenly came back after Sonny.
I gotta call you back. Oh, shit.
The general called back and told Sonny to immediately seek shelter because they would attack the moon soon. Then Sonny told the general that Brian and Fowler were still in space. Hearing that, the general was shocked. Casey and Fowler saw that Brian was not in his seat and looked for him, and there was an open door and they entered it. The scene switches where Brian is in a room talking to someone who turns out to be a lunar operating system designed to tell the origin of human ancestors, where once their ancestors were very advanced and had created artificial intelligence. It was from this artificial intelligence that the mysterious creature appeared. Their ancestors escaped to the end of the galaxy and created planets operated by benign artificial intelligence, but only one planet survived, namely the moon. Finally, Casey and Fowler found Brian. Then Brian explained everything, and they rushed to kill the creature because they don't have much time.
Let's see it. It's done something.
The scene switches. Sonny's stepfather was forced to give his oxygen to his daughter because his daughter had run out of oxygen.
Where's Tom and Nikki?
Stay with me.
What?
I'm right behind you.
What?
I'm right behind you.
Sonny tried to find his stepfather, but then
Sonny, look out! Sonny!
when he was about to launch the nuke, the general cancelled it because he knew Fowler was still in space. Brian knew someone had to sacrifice himself to kill the creature with the bomb. Brian planned to sacrifice himself. When Brian and Fowler were arguing, Casey entered the room of the plane containing the bomb. He planned to sacrifice himself.
Check in on my mom. Thanks for believing me. You underestimate.
Sonny! The moon!
Where's your friend?
He saved the world. And that one too.
Casey then reappeared. It turns out that the moon's operating system scanned Casey's subconscious and he is now part of the moon.
Get started with what?
And I will remind you that watching movies provide a much more exciting viewing experience than just watching the recap. And if you like this recap, you can like and subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make even better videos. And thank you for taking your time to watch this video. Have a nice day.
Muchas gracias, afición. Este para vosotros.